On behalf of the motion picture industry, welcome to the world of home video entertainment.
Hello everybody, John here in Pulsing Cinema, and it's the morning after my first viewing ever of Vincent Pereira's A Better Place. Oh my God, Vincent Pereira's Better Place, an independent film from 1997, and it's almost 20 years since this film has been made. Oh my God, it's almost 20. It's literally about 20 years since production started. Oh my God. Oh my God. Time just flies by. Time flies by. I'd never seen A Better Place. And A Better Place is an obscure film. An obscure film. You go online for it, and basically all you're going to find about it are some interviews, some scant interviews on various websites with the director, Vincent Pereira, maybe some of the other people involved. The website itself, there is an official A Better Place website that's hosted at Askew. And it is it's like a portrait of like the internet circa 2001, 2002. It's like this horrible flash website that it loads and it has this gunshot, and then it loads A Better Place, and then like say, oh, you want to click on the trailer? Yeah, you can click on the oh, there's a 404. There's a You can't even watch the trailer online. The trailer, but you can buy. It looks like you can buy a poster. It looks like a 11 by 17 little mini poster for $20 or whatever. Maybe who the hell knows if that PO box or that whatever on the website is even up. But I didn't even know the film ever had a poster. All I remember as far as the key art was that the DVD cover, and that was it. I mean, the bottom line is, if you're a fan of independent film, if you're a fan of dark coming-of-age dramas, then this movie is really good. Don't pass it by. It's interesting. It's unique, and it's filled with some really great performances. So, who is this Vincent Pereira guy, and why should we even care about this movie? And made many years ago, and whatever. Okay, Vincent Pereira was Kevin Smith's friend, and he worked at the video store, and Kevin Smith worked at the filling station, the Quickie Mart, and really he was the guy who really inspired Kevin Smith to become a filmmaker, and really it was his interactions with Kevin Smith which kind of formed some of the basis for and the inspiration for Clerks. And Vincent was that second guy who worked at the video store. Vincent was the guy from the starting gate, wanted to be a filmmaker. Actually, Kevin Smith was kind of rolling around in life early on, was kind of restless, and decided that he wanted to be a filmmaker after some experiences with seeing a movie with Vincent, was seeing Richard Linklater's Slacker. So Kevin Smith made Clerks, and he hit it big, and he had all these other filmmaking cohorts, and he started financing little tiny movies that they made. I mean, nothing. These were not $500,000. These were like $30,000, $40,000 films, low budget films, and he got some financing from Miramax to do this, to finance a couple of low budget. I mean, like the price of a luxury car, basically. I mean, it's just you could spend. Miramax could spend $40,000 or $50,000 on just promotion. You'd go to Sundance or whatever and spend how many tens of thousands of dollars just on promotion for a film. So I think they were seen as kind of promotion, as they're doing something, and and this was kind of all occurring in the mid-90s, where independent film was just blowing up, and the world of home video and distribution and so forth was at a time when you could still get the money to do this stuff, and when it still took kind of tens of thousands of dollars to even make a movie on film, just to pay to shoot something on 16 or 35. It required all this money. And so Kevin Smith financed all these guys' films. He financed this movie Big Helium Dog, and he gave his buddy Vincent Pereira, I think it was around $30,000 or $40,000, and then I think it was like 30 or 40, and then it went, when they did post-production, about 40 to 50,000. They had to put in an extra like 10,000 for his post-production. His buddy Vincent Pereira financed this film, A Better Place, and then the most notorious film that came out of those View Askew Kevin Smith productions, the most notorious up to this point, I guess, is Vulgar the Clown. That movie, which was around 2000, and I think it came out on DVD in 2000, 2002. That film had a huge theatrical release, and it was a big splash, and because it starred the guy from Clerks, and it was just a huge movie. I heard promotion on Howard Stern, and it got a pretty big theatrical release in the New York area. It was playing in a bunch of theaters, and it was riding on, and when Kevin Smith was even had a part in the movie, and so that, I guess, was the highest profile film, and it's the film that Kevin Smith said he was the most proud of, whatever. But A Better Place kind of was one of the first of these films that he financed. And I don't even think Big Helium Dog has ever been released. There's some clips on it on YouTube, and it just looks like Clerks looks like an advanced film it just looks really low budget and really, But A Better Place was the first one of these. And the whole Kevin Smith View Askew thing, I think, was a double-edged sword. Because in one sense, these films were getting a lot of press on the film festival circuit, right? But at the same time, that connection to the type of film, the kind of potty-mouthed humor of the Kevin Smith comedies, in some ways, it helped things like Vulgar the Clown and Big Helium Dog. But in the case of A Better Place, that's not the type of film that A Better Place is. A Better Place is a very stark, morose, ultra-realistic, authentic look at teen angst. And, I think it hurt these films as well as helped these films. And the thing is that these films were, $30,000 films. They were $50,000. They were the lowest of the ultra-low budget things. So they weren't, like $2 or $3 million productions or $5 million productions that people were cheerleading behind. These are movies that you could just throw away, that could just disappear, that could go into the ether. They're just a write-off. They're a tax write-off, really. They're not even a tax write-off. These, these are movies that people shoot, and then the lab, ruins the negative, and oh well, write off. And these are films that just disappear. There are dozens of films, hundreds of films that just never are destroyed in the lab, or they never finished editing, or they're never finished, or they're finished but kind of half finished, and they take a dive. And there were some Kevin Smith productions that were kind of just like that. And A Better Place was finished, and released in, I believe, 97, and came out on the film festival scene of the late 90s, and then was released by Synapse Film on DVD in, I believe, like 2000 or 2001. And the director, Vincent Pereira, had cut and recut the film and gone through all of this stuff. And but the film came out DVD and it made a big splash. And Vincent was and still is not as much as he used to be in the early 2000s, a really high-profile guy on the home theater DVD websites, message boards. You'd see, and Vincent Pereira is a big Dario Argento fan. So if you had a discussion of Dario Argento, he would go on and start, talking to your head off about Dario Argento. And it was just fun. It was great, And then he also did a little promotion on A Better Place or whatever he was working on, because he still worked on Kevin Smith films throughout the way. Because, he had a kind of a tangential relationship to Clerks, was cut out of Clerks and then was like a PA and had some, deleted scenes, a little cameo in Mallrats. And then after Mallrats was finished, he started making A Better Place. But really the film is just fallen into obscurity. After the early, 2001, that's like, it's 16 years ago, 15 years ago, And the film was released kind of, it was kind of like before the internet became a way that you could really push independent films over social media and explode. It was just kind of made that post indie film boom of the whole Scott Pearson, Kevin Smith, Richard Linklater, Quentin Tarantino of the early 90s. It was just right after that, but just as that was kind of dying down in the late 90s, where it was getting kind of codified and, there was sides were being drawn and there weren't as many slackers and Reservoir Dogs and Clerks, being made. It was kind of slowing down, And, home video was slowing down and everything in some ways, But then it was kind of pre the internet and social media and everything. So, as I said, the website is there's not even, there's not even a trailer on YouTube of this film. Like for years I'd go, oh, well, let me look. Is that movie A Better Place a really good movie? Is it anything? And let me look at it. Let's just look at a trailer. A curious person is interested in independent film in the 90s. Let's just look up a trailer. Let's just see what's going on. And I just searched for I think I only found like one video. I did some pretty thorough searching of A Better Place. And it's like a video of like the soundtrack or something. So, A Better Place. What is A Better Place about? A Better Place is kind of as I said, a dark, kind of angsty drama, very authentic and dark. It's about this young kid, Barrett, who moves to a new town with his newly widowed mother. His father's just died in an accident, and he goes to this new high school, and everybody is, kind of combative to him. He meets the high school bully, but he also meets this kind of very withdrawn, nihilistic young guy, Ryan. And Ryan and Barrett kind of strike up a friendship. Ryan, they also share the death of the parents. Ryan's parents died in a very, visceral, horrible manner, and and when Ryan was very young, when he was like 10 years old. So it's really kind of unhinged, this kid, and he is, we don't know if he's a psychopath or whatever. So the whole film is just basically, it takes place in, New York, New Jersey, and it's just these two kids who are wandering about this kind of, in this suburban New Jersey area existence in the early 90s, trying to make sense of the world. Ryan shares his life view with Barrett, and Ryan is very dark, very nihilistic. As I said, he hates everybody. He makes Holden Caulfield look like a cheerleader, and and so there is this dynamic between Barrett, who is this kind of younger, geeky kid, and Ryan, who is this kind of stronger yet very troubled young man. And eventually, guns and violence come into play. And, I think this movie is like post Basketball Diaries, but then pre-Columbine. Eerily pre-Columbine. And so, again, this film ends in a very explosive, violent conclusion. So, I was really nervous about this movie because part of me wanted to enjoy it, part of me did not want to enjoy it, part of me felt indifferent because of Kevin Smith's participation in it. I'm not a really Kevin Smith cheerleader. When Clerks came out and I was a young kid in the 90s, I was interested in it. And I watched it, and just like everybody else, getting inspiration from the independent filmmakers in the 90s, and you can go out and make your own film. Clerks was a very a film you could aspire to, because it felt like a simple film, yet it was well written. It was relatively well written, well paced. It had a certain sense of artistry, and it was black and white, so it kind of took the air out of some of its deficiencies in that it was kind of artsy, In a way, it was unlike other movies, and in a sense that the whole black and white kind of diffused a lot of the things where usually if it was color would look maybe a little bit crappy or whatever. I didn't really like Mallrats. I didn't like really a lot of the other movies. I just felt that this is the potty humor and some of the excessive stuff. It's like trauma films without kind of the extreme excess. And it just turned me off, and I just, wasn't really excited about it. And also, Kevin Smith's films to me never really had a big visual flair, because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the beautiful cinematography and the Vilma Zsigmonds and the Conrad Halls and the light and shadow and the way you can express emotion through a certain image, a visual image. And Kevin Smith's films always kind of, to me, lacked that type of thing. They lacked a kind of visual sensibility, and they still, in some senses, they still do. There are some parts with watching a while ago watching Tusk, where I'm like, man, this is still a little bit choppy. This is not as visually interesting as you can get. But and some of the other films, like I couldn't even watch all of Vulgar and the comedies, and so I thought, okay, maybe this other film would be as bad as that. And A Better Place is an accomplished film. It was shot on 16 millimeters, so it has that rough filmic texture, and it's just a really beautiful looking film. Though it's a very short film, very well composed, very well made. I think. I don't think anybody would really argue with that. It's just really well made, as far away from the kind of Kevin Smith school of composition and whatever. No, it's just a beautiful film and a very authentic looking film. I think this film, the low budget, really, it's one of those films where the low budget really helps you get into the film, where you're seeing the stories of these characters, just these average kids in upstate New York, just trying to live the life, and you see obviously the teenagers are played by, people in, 19, 20, 21 or so forth. So, and they're playing like 17 or 18-year-olds. So they look like a little slightly older kids, but they still look like kids. I don't know if you ever gone to a high school. When you're about 17 or 18, sometimes you can pass for being a couple years older. And it feels authentic, these kids, it feels, they look very authentic, and then the way they dress, and in school, and the sweatiness and the thing, like when you're in school all day, sometimes you get sweaty and your hormones are working in overdrive, and so you got pores and sweat and acne and then the girls have the big lipstick and they got this and everything. And so the fact that it's such a low budget that everybody kind of looks a little chintzy and is not that polished, it makes it look more realistic, And the performances are to extent kind of over the, all over the map. I mean, of course, there's a little cameo, well known by the famous actor Jason Lee in the film, and there's some other things. There's no big Kevin Smith cameo. I don't know if he had a cameo or something that was cut out or whatever. But the performances and the two guys here, as Barrett, that guy Robert DiPatri, who I don't think has done anything since, and then the discovery in this film is Ryan. This guy Ian Bradley, who went on to do Fight Club. He's now done a lot of television series. I think he was in Band of Brothers. He's really become a big actor. I even read or heard that he was one of the guys that was up for Batman during Batman Begins. He was one of the actors in the lineup that was, up for the role. And he is just a great actor. He is incredible. He has to do these monologues where he talks about how, very Holden Caulfield-esque monologues about how, or Rusty Cole from True Detective about how, the humans are messing up the world, that, life is shit with humans, and people, the world would be a better place if the human race was snuffed out, kind of a thing. These very nihilistic things which you can start telling as a character have arisen from the death of his parents, and the explosive way in which they died, and you just follow the dynamics of these two characters, Barrett and Ryan, as Ryan, kind of spirals off into madness, and then Barrett kind of begins to make friends and pull away, and their kind of attraction and repulsion. Oh man, I had read reviews where it was told that it was unrealistic, and I don't think it's unrealistic at all. I think when you're a young person, you're a teenager, and you often speak in these, you don't have the life experience, so you speak in these kind of, general ways, these general type of, and you're trying to figure out the social etiquette and the social dynamics, and so some of this kind of slightly awkward dialogue that you see in the film, I think works given the age of the characters. It's very age appropriate. Where, like someone will sit down, can I sit here? And it's like, oh yeah, it's a free country. And so some of these, and then the dialogue, the monologues that Ryan gives are again, this kind of like, you see him echoed in stuff like Taxi Driver and Catcher in the Rye, and Joe, and these films with these kind of nihilistic characters, True Detective, where these nihilistic characters who somehow speak a kind of dark truth, but they're troubled characters. They're kind of coming from a very dark place. And, So I mean, to me, it's very, it works. It's great, and the film, as I said before, has that rough texture, but it looks like some kind of, it feels like it's drawing influence from European art film, like Italian neo-realist cinema, where we're watching these young kids, living through life. And I'm sure there's a little European, art horror, Dario Argento influence. I think that's what Vincent Pereira would have you believe. It's not everything is Dario Argento, okay, There's a little bit of Rossellini and Pasolini and a little bit of the European, Italian, neo-realist cinema influence that I see in this film. And because another thing is people put this film up against Larry Clark's Bully and Kids, and they're like, those are really stark. Those are that's the real stuff. A Better Place is not as good a film, and I would disagree totally. I think they're trying to do two separate things. First of all, Bully and Kids and the whole Larry Clark films are very graphic, sexually explicit. They're very much they feel in some ways like creepy old man leering portraitures into teen life. The seedy, the exploitative. But cathartic at the same time, and there's some real truth to a film like Kids, because I remember when I was in my 20s, at film school, or my late 19, early 20s, we'd watch Kids, and everybody was like, man, this is like my life, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know the level of realism that's in those films. There is that kind of creepy old man, kind of creepy photographer, aesthetic to them. And what Vincent was going for with A Better Place is a far more, to me, authentic experience seen through the prism of someone who's interested in European art film and who has a big visual sense, who has this very good visual sensibility. So, a great film, not a film. I don't think a film that deserves to disappear. It's a film that deserves to come out, to be released on Blu-ray and streaming. I think it was on Netflix for a short period of time, and then went off. The DVD is still widely available. It's still widely being distributed and available. By now it's a discount DVD. But the film is really good. It's really good and very nostalgic. Not only for the fact that it comes out from Askew in the 90s, but just the fashions and the look of the kids. There's a scene where they try to hop on a bus, a train, get into the city, and they're kicked off, and I just think today, like, man, if those kids tried to hop a train in the city, they would be, arrested in juvenile court and bail and all of this stuff. It was, the fashions and the hairstyles and the looks, in one sense, the film has not aged that much, and it still could be seen as a very current film. Aside from some of the old cars and such, the old beater cars that are in the film, the old beater sedans, the film's still a very current looking film. In another way, though, it's kind of a prism into 20 years ago, a long ago place, a long ago time, and so. For someone like me who grew up in the 90s, it's kind of very nostalgic. So if you kind of grew up in the 90s, if you graduated high school in the 90s, I think, especially in the mid 90s, I think this is it's definitely going to be a nostalgic film for you to check out. So yeah, a nostalgic, film about troubled youth, about some of the real things that were going. Because you definitely, I think anybody who goes through high school, you could see a little bit of yourself in Barrett, maybe a little bit of yourself in Ryan, you know. I mean, I knew people that were not as extreme as Ryan, but still, you know, had a darkness to them, you know, and came from broken families and or non-existent families. And so, you know, very, very good film in that way. Yeah, it's something that you can see yourself in. A very, very good film. I mean, I was surprised by how good it was. I mean, I just bought the DVD because, you know, it was very difficult to find. I mean, I didn't know anywhere you could rent it. It was like a disappeared movie. But I was always like, you know. And so I found it cheap, and I was like, you know, well, gee, let me give this a try. Let me give this a try, you know. And then I didn't even start watching the movies. I started with the commentary, just to see it. And I was like, you know, I put the commentary on in the background. I was like, hey, let's rewatch the, let's give this movie a try. Let's give it a real honest college try. And I watched it and I loved it. And then I was like, what are other people thinking? I go on YouTube. There's no other reviews for it. So this is an overlong review, but this movie deserves an overlong, tedious review because it is a great film. You will not waste your time on this movie. And here we go. Okay, so the first review, it only took almost 25 years or 20 years. The first review of A Better Place on YouTube. The Pulsing Cinema's verdict. It's great. It deserves a re-release. It deserves, 20 years on, and Vincent Pereira, I mean, he deserves to make more movies. He's now, stretched out. Now Terrence Malick is more prolific than Vincent, but things happen. I mean, he spent a lot of time here working on that adaptation of the Clive Barker story, Pig Blood Blues, and then that kind of blew up. He's working on some other scripts and doing some other stuff, and then working with Kevin Smith on his movies as well. That's the main through line of this film, is friendship and relationship to Kevin Smith. So he's still doing great stuff, and he has a movie that really he should be proud of, and that's something that's, as I said, is ageless and timeless. And as long as there are young people, there's going to be turbulent emotions, broken families, and tough decisions and violence. That's what really puberty and coming of age. There's a lot of, violent, tense situations, and those are perfectly dramatized in A Better Place. So, yeah, really a great film.